Well, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Absolutely delighted to be joined this evening by Mr. Milbillie, obviously of Milbillie Jeeves YouTube channel, which is growing from strength to strength. It's great to see. Milbillie, I believe you live slightly closer to Manitrop than I do.
Yeah, I'm from Wisconsin, born and raised.
Yeah, yeah. And we were just discussing just a few minutes ago that um, you've been doing your videos now for about a year.
Just over a year.
Yeah,
This past November, right after Making a Murder 2 came out,
yeah,
and that really just had to say something, put my point of view, what I think, because he was framed 100%.
yeah, yeah. And I think I first saw the name Milbillie appearing on, I would say, the comment sections in some of the Ericozy videos, probably from about maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah,
But you've been following this case right from the get go.
yes. I watched
Yeah,
it all play out in real time over the
yeah,
news. You couldn't get away from it here in Wisconsin. It was
yeah.
crazy.
I'm I know. As you probably well aware, one of the things I'm really curious about is the way that the media handled the the whole sort of Stephen Avery being exonerated, the embarrassment side. I've just today I've listened to your one of your videos that you've posted a load of videos about the well, I'll let you explain what they are.
Well, these jail calls are. There's so many of them. I don't know. I tried to upload all of them, but if I focus just on uploading videos, I'm not going to have any time to research anything
Yeah.
because there's tons of info in these calls. Tons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just you got to be able to know what you're looking for to be able to find it.
Sometimes it might be like trying to find a needle in a haystack, but um, I, I kind of suspect somewhat similar to when I was delving into the sexting scandal of Ken Kratz. You unearth some absolute gems along the way, don't you?
Oh yes, yes, tons.
I
Like
mean, you were telling me about the conversation that Steve was having with various people, and how the investigators,
yeah.
using the word loosely. Could you just expand a bit on what you were saying earlier to me?
Well, they're using things that he's saying against him,
Mm-hmm.
but for a fact, they hear him say that him and Brendan were by the fire on the golf cart. So what do? They go right after Brendan. I mean, they tried their hardest to get Jody to flip. They even
Mm-hmm.
used Debbie against her, and it still didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So they had nothing, and they were grasping for anything they could find.
Now, I want to take you back to when you first started doing the videos. Um, I think it's mainly been stuff that you've actually gone out and got a hold of. Is that right? Like audio recordings.
Yeah. Well, somebody from Reddit had FOIA'd the queso dispatch calls about a year ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I had gone through all the Manitowoc dispatch calls. They're not time stamped, so it's a guessing game. And one of the people I know, Braun, she reached out to the Redditor and got the calls for us. And I proceeded to go through every single day, every single channel,
Mm-hmm.
19,027 files.
Jeez,
It took me a month.
I bet. I bet.
And yeah, it's like if Dean and Jerry had, well, I know for a fact they didn't have any of the case of dispatch because I
Sure.
talked to
Yeah.
Jerry Buting via a tweet, a direct message, and all these photos we're finding, if they had access to this, why did they not use it?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And the fact that they both signed affidavits stating that they fucked up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny you mention that. It was today's date, the 2nd. It was nearly a year ago, and Jerry was saying that that there's only so much that he can do in regards to like coming on and having a chat with people, because he knows that he's going to be summoned to an evidentiary hearing to do with ineffective counsel.
I was shocked that he messaged me back, for one.
Yeah.
And the fact that he messaged me back within 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I just messaged him out the blue, like, hey, I got some questions about the dispatch calls. He was like, oh, yeah, I know exactly who you are, what you've been doing. Keep up the good work. I'll answer any calls, any questions I can. And my main question was the Manitowoc dispatch given to you in its original form, or was it an MP3 form? Because somebody transferred it over to MP3s. Found out that it was AC Rookie. So the calls are out there in their entirety, and I would like to get my access to them so I can go do the same thing I did to the Queso dispatch in the Manitowoc. Because whoever has been posting the Manitowoc dispatch on the clip site, it seems that they may have left some things out. I mean, they had access to that Queso dispatch for over a year before I even touched it.
Right.
And there's so many things in there. Like the one finding bones 2.5 miles away off the property, expand the crime scene. If Gary and Gene had heard that, when Kraft brings up the 20 seconds on the bones, he'd be like, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
the chess game now with the state, they're doing everything they can to suppress anything they can. Like, request FOIA calls and they deny them. Anything from Manitowoc is being denied because it's an ongoing investigation.
Well, yeah, it's hats off to you, because as you say, you follow this right from the word go, and it's got to the stage where you've decided that you're going to do something and spread the word, and that's obviously the most important thing. And just earlier today, I was listening to. I think I've listened to it 3 times. A conversation between Stephen Avery and Emily Matasic.
Yes.
Yep. And what strikes me, as I say, that one of my great interests is, excuse my language, what the F were the journalists doing? Are they just some puppet propaganda machine?
Well, there was one journalist that was actually on Stephen's side. He actually does an interview with him in Crivets, Mr.
Right.
Kelly.
Yeah.
And he was actually pointing out to the people in the newsroom that they're trying to say that the car is found on Stephen Avery's property, but he pointed out to them, no, that's not Stephen Avery's property. That's his family's property. He technically doesn't own anything but a truck.
Yeah.
And a few other vehicles. I mean, Roland Johnson was letting them stay in that trailer temporarily until he got his lawsuit settlement and he was going to move out.
Yep.
And listening to these jail calls, his attorneys did nothing for him whatsoever. They convinced him to drop his lawsuit. Then they convinced him to settle. First, they convinced him to put it on hold. Then they convinced him to take the settlement.
It's always been one of the things that's always bugged me is, why give up when you were within 2 witnesses of this busting, big time in causing major embarrassment. This is the reason why I can't get past who benefits most from Stephen Avery being framed for murder.
Kirk and Vogel.
Yeah. I just wanted to quickly run through with you. If Steve had have done it, because in that phone conversation with Emily Matasic, I don't know about you. Did you pick up on the sense that she's trying to get him, Steve, that is, to somehow confess, to trip him up?
Yeah.
It's like she's constantly badgering him. You know, how do you explain this? How do you explain that? How do you explain the other? You know, you're clearly guilty. What? You know, it's almost as if she thinks that she can just present, you know,
right.
all this evidence, and he's going to say, "Well, I suppose, yeah, you're probably right. Probably I did do it. Okay, you know, it beggars belief that, unless the journalist, such as Emily, goes to, you know, the state and the police and questions them, I don't get the impression that was the case.
No. He had no chance at all.
Yeah,
no chance. It was him against the world, basically.
It's just that if I'm just going to run through this, if I may. These are some notes I made as a result of listening to that phone call, and it was from the point of view that, well, if Steve did it, surely the evidence would be this, and this. So I'll just quickly run through with you. There would have been a vile smell.
Oh, for sure.
Across the aviary yard for a couple of days.
The fact that none of the neighbors mentioned anything.
Yeah.
And if I just listened to the day after Christmas, Scott Tadich. He talks to Scott Tadich, Barb, Bobby, Brian, Dolores.
Yeah.
And Scott Tadich says he asks him, like, what time did you go to see your mom in the hospital? And actually, he doesn't even say what time you see your mom in the hospital. He just says, what time did you go see your mom? Doesn't say the date or anything. And Scott automatically knows what days he's talking about. And he asks him, what time did the fire wind down? He was like, well, it was pretty much done by the time you dropped her off, right? And he was like, yeah. So, and this is after Scott already testified in the December 5th and 6th hearings.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's just run through them. If Steve had done it, we wouldn't have had Blaine saying that Bobby told him that he saw Teresa leave.
Mm-hmm.
We wouldn't have the RAV4 being seen by the East Twin Rivers, by Kevin Ramlow, amongst others. I mean, I've even had somebody contact me, a native of Manitowoc County, who preferred to stay anonymous. I immediately got in touch with Kathleen Zellner and left it with the office. You know, also, would there not be fingerprints of Steve on the car
or Brennan? And this case is crazy. Like,
yeah,
no matter which aspect of it you look at, nothing makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, when they interview Stephen Avery, Fassbender, and Wiegert, they tell them that they know how the car got on the property, that it went through the field, through the deer camp, in through the back. But when they talk to Brendan a couple months later, he tells them a completely different story about how the car got there. He said it went past his mom's house, past Dolores, past Chuck's. So nothing makes sense at all.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about Brendan's confession is it's as you say, they're using some of Stephen's own narrative against him, but you know, a confession is supposed to make things clearer. Whereas Brendan's confession is just completely confused. It's, to use a Dean Strang term, it's off the charts. That it does not make any sense whatsoever. And all that the state did was they just cherry picked certain lines of that so-called confession to come up with their story. What we're finding is that it's completely the opposite. I just wanted to run through a couple of other things that would be different. There would have been a mix of Steve and Teresa's blood in the RAV, because if he's actively bleeding, and she's obviously bleeding because he's shot her or whatever, there would be blood in a mix of his and hers, front and back. Apparently, this is the first case that Kathleen Zellner's ever seen. No mix of blood, front and back.
None. No print.
No. The other thing that I wonder what Emily Matasic is thinking now, because one of the things you wouldn't have if Steve had done it, you wouldn't have wood embedded in a bullet that supposedly went through Teresa.
The whole state scenario what took place didn't. It couldn't have. There's
no.
I mean, just looking at everything, if you go back and read Queso, which is 117 pages of lies, I care, because just the way it starts out, they don't mention, all they mention about is Leslie Muir responding to the Hallbox residence at 5 p.m. They don't mention that she was reported missing at 2:37 p.m. and all that stuff. And then you look at the search warrant affidavit that Uyghur submitted to the judge. He claims that she was reported missing at 5 p.m. and that Karen Hallbox stated that the car was dark blue. Why? Why is he lying on a search warrant? I mean, in the trial, Dean and Jerry, they brought all these discrepancies up too. So, I mean, if you look at the initial trial that he had in December, and then they go back in January, the testimony that they gave in December, it doesn't match what they say in January. So,
I suppose the point we've sort of, one of the things I'm particularly interested in is, as I say, the journalists. Why do you think that the journalists are so happy to run with what the state, what the prosecution has told them? Is this just a natural thing? Is this the kind of stuff that would normally happen?
With Manitowoc, has got tons and tons of cases of just crazy things happening, and not just the whole state of Wisconsin. I mean, you got cases in Milwaukee. I mean, you got the Nina microphone case, and all kinds of stuff happening, man. I mean, there's people that have died in that quarry before. It's not like they've never found dead bodies there. So if they're finding bones, whose are they? The fact that they completely try to cover up Cuss Road 100%, like it didn't happen, but they're notified about it on the 7th. But why do we have all these photos for the next day if there was nothing there? The fact that they bring Bushman out of retirement, or he's out of retirement, they bring him in for one day for about 9 hours. And he never comes back again. Why? Why do they keep the dogs away from Cuss Road on the 7th?
I suppose my question would be, which is worse, the investigation of this case or the reporters covering it? They're sort of questioning of it, because, as I say, when I listened to that phone call between Emily Matasic and Steve, it's as if she doesn't want to concede any concept. She's constantly saying, so you really think this is some sort of conspiracy?
Well, you got to think about it. Who's really going to think the cops are going to do this again? I mean, they framed them the first time. The only difference between this time and the last time is Penny Bernstein didn't die. Yeah.
I mean, that I know for a fact that when I first listened to it,
if Penny Bernstein would have died, then they probably would have did a thorough investigation and found out who really did it.
I get the impression that it's pretty sure that in Manitowoc, the Averys are considered, because they run a scrapyard, somehow that they're some lower class of people, albeit that Herman runs a scrapyard, but his is supposed to be some sort of, far superior. And he's in charge of the. By 2006, he's in charge of Manitowoc, and his father before him was a very influential player. But as far as the journalism is concerned, I can't seem to figure out whether it's just a case of they're just happy to go along with what the state is saying. Is it just a case of they can't be bothered to go out and sort of investigate anything? I don't
know. It's your guess as good as mine. I don't know.
What I do know though is that there is certainly cause for hope, because since Make a Murderer first came out, and I, as I was saying to one or two people over the weekend, like Sir Andrew Whitehead and other people, the fact that we've got people like you coming forward, as you say, putting in the hours to listen through all this stuff. And I remember as well that you went through all the photographs.
Oh yeah, the first batch, the 2000 something, and then the 644.
Yeah. I saw you did a video about that where you went through it all.
And I noticed in the 2000 photos they have pictures of the outside of the storage evidence lockers for Manitowoc, and they have pictures of them going inside. And then we have pictures of Cuss Road, but they're not time stamped, but they're obviously the day before.
Yeah.
That we have from these Wisconsin State Patrol photos.
Yeah.
This whole case is just mind-boggling. No matter which part you look at, whether it's the bones, the RAV, the key, Cuss Road.
I mean, I'm kind of a blunt question, I know, but do you think it's possible that Manitowoc Sheriff's Department were actually responsible for, in effect, sacrificing a 25-year-old just to get off of this civil suit?
I'm leaning to the fact that maybe she might have had some kind of tragedy, like driving, hit a deer, something, medical issue, and found her, and covered it up. There's 2 depositions left, and they all got stopped.
Yeah.
They were going to lose their case no matter what.
Yeah. I want to ask you also, because obviously this is something that's been of interest, the idea that there are 2 RAV4s.
That's what I believe. We need to if we can get the title to her car with the actual VIN number on it, that would be the smoking gun. That can clear all the confusion up. Because I don't understand why you'd report your kid missing and give the wrong description of the car.
Yeah. Well, plus you've got the fact that when she actually phones in, dare I say it, Karen seems awfully calm about it.
Yeah, I've heard some people consider it like she was ordering a pizza.
Yeah, that's. I think we've read the same stuff. Yeah. It's and obviously my callback with his grieving process.
Yeah.
I mean, do you
videos on my callback? I took all the news things he's done, all the statements he did. I put them all in one video, titled it "No Emotions," because that's exactly what I see. No emotions.
That's I mean, we've also got. I remember a video by somebody who does sort of analysing of that kind of stuff, and in fairness, okay, maybe it's a case of once you know the scenario, then you can look at people's reactions and say, yes, that was the moment that they betrayed that. Maybe we don't want to go down the sort of scenario of Jim Bray saying, I could tell that Stephen A was guilty by the look in his eye. But it's when you look back at it retrospectively, you can see exactly, that's where, that's when that guy was lying. So yeah, could Teresa still be out there? For me,
I doubt she's still alive. I doubt it.
Yeah, I must admit that the fact that there's this blood splatter on the back of the cargo door, if it is genuinely Teresa's car, have we ever managed to figure out what looked like a bee's nest, or what?
It looks like it's part of the car.
It's just a bit bent back
from inside the inner fender well. Something.
Yeah. And it's just gathered mud and.
Yep.
Yeah. Okie dokie. And how many more videos have you? How many more recordings of phone calls did you say you've got to go through? Is it 957?
Oh, it's like, well, there's some duplicates, so it's less than 900.
Right.
Foul Play, if you look them up on YouTube, they're going to be uploading all the calls. I don't have time to be doing all this.
Yeah.
And they have, I think, 2 or 3 people doing it, so it's going a lot quicker. I was trying to keep up. There's no way in hell. No way.
No, it's yeah.
I mean, just the first lot of the 118 calls or 115 calls we got, that was a nightmare. It took me 5 days to upload all of them nonstop off work. Just got to the point where I can't listen to Stephen and Dolores talk anymore.
Mm.
I'm more interested in the phone calls where he's talking to somebody else, because then they actually talk about the case. Very true. I must admit, I would like you, maybe if you could, just to expand a little bit more on the phone calls between Steve and Steve Glynn. He's basically telling them to shut up, stop talking, because he feels. I couldn't even imagine how Stephen Avery would feel in that position. Mm-hmm. He feels like nobody's helping him. I mean, he talks to his brothers all the time, asks them to do stuff. They don't ever do it. Talks to Barb. They don't ever do it. The only people that are actually trying to help him are Dolores and Carla and Stacey.
Yeah.
And it's very, very apparent that they were listening to his calls and they were taking things he said and used it against him. That's how they found Brendan.
Mm-hmm.
And it really bothers me that when Wiegert and Wendy Baldwin are interviewing Jody, they bring up the Blazer that Barb owned, that got burned in 2004. Mysteriously just disappeared from the property, ends up on fire, and after it's on fire, they report it stolen.
Mm-hmm.
Wiegert tries getting Jody to say that that's Stephen's Blazer. It's not Stephen's Blazer. That's Barb's. Stephen had an alibi. Verified. Everybody's involved in that situation, all but 2 people got their alibis verified: Tom Yonda and Bobby Dassey. Bobby Dassey stated that he was hunting with Mike O, his best friend, that he hangs out every single day. Well, guess who they don't talk to verify that? Mike O. Why? And why is it still an open case on Stephen Avery's record as of today?
Mm. Yeah, it's
the follow-up officer for that, Michael Bushman.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, he's kind of like the fix-it guy, isn't he?
He arrested him in '85. He was the arresting officer in 1985.
Yeah. He's kind of like one of those guys that they bring in to help try and cover up stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He's like one of Zurich's top guys when it comes to that.
Right, him and Herman, Todd Herman. Rob Herman, Rob's brother.
Yeah.
He accompanies Bushman on the property on the 7th. They arrived together in the morning, 7:53 a.m.
Yeah. And
I don't understand how Bushman never signs out, but he's signing back in at 1:30. We got a phone call at 12:30 to Casimir Dispatch saying they just overheard over a scanner. Somebody from the family who overheard that there was a body found.
Yeah.
and the dispatcher don't deny it. She says, "Oh, I didn't hear that on my frequency or my scanner."
Mm.
Why did they let Ryan Hilgis and Scott Blodorn on the property the morning of the 7th? And right before they arrive, Deb Strauss arrives.
Yeah.
They're there for about an hour. They leave, and then Deb Strauss leaves. Why are they letting Josh Redant right on Cuss Road?
Yeah.
I mean, it's obvious they didn't do a proper investigation whatsoever. They had their eyes focused on one person and one person only.
Yeah, I don't know about you. I get the impression that there, as you say, there were people who deliberately focused on Stephen Brendan, well, particularly to begin with Steve, before Brendan even came into it, because of the fact that that they were being pointed by the ones that have done the framing.
You think about it, everybody's been taken care of in this case.
Yeah.
Except for two people because they fucked themselves.
Yeah.
Lynn Kaczynski and Kratz. I mean, look what happened to Uyghur. He's a sheriff now. Herman, sheriff now. Everybody got upgraded in the totem pole. I mean, look at Colborn. He went from shift commander to the head of the evidence custodian.
Well, yeah, I mean, he actually ran against Herman for election as sheriff back in 2006. And that's dodgy as hell because one of his supporters was Jim Link.
Yep.
And, what made him think he was going to jump from being a sergeant?
And why is all the evidence found against Stephen Avery found when Manitowoc Sheriff's Department is there?
because they've got the crackerjack detectives. Didn't you know that? They are the ones that can see things that mere mortals can't see. It's just
well, Stephen Avery himself tells Uyghur and Fassbender, like, Manitowoc's planting everything, you guys are finding it.
Yeah.
Which is the truth.
Well, yeah, apart from the fact that we now discover that Uyghur and Fassbender, well, particularly Uyghur with the groin swab being relabeled as a DNA of the hood latch. I mean, again, that's, some of the things that I'm thinking, you'd have, if Stephen had done it, you wouldn't have had any, for example, deleted messages on.
Yeah. Why is the missing flyer dated for the date he's missing?
Yeah.
Reported missing.
It's another thing I wrote down was that if Steve had done it, sorry, carry on.
I was reading one of the comments.
That
her friends and family actually did go on the news. If you listen to these calls between Dolores and Stephen, when they're listening to the news, you can hear the news reports through the calls. And Kelly Pitson goes live on the news. Kelly Pitson is calling Queso Dispatch twice, telling them to look at Bradley Check.
Yeah.
Why are they so concerned to focus their attention on somebody else?
Mm-hmm.
Why, when Scott Blodorn is calling the Schmitz residents or Speckman, accusing thinking it's Stephen Avery, why is Ryan Hilgis in turn calling Kelly Pitson at the same time?
Yeah.
I mean, Queso's a bunch of lies. Like, if you take Earl's interview that he gave that we just got, and there's no mention of that at all in Queso. There's no mention of him hiding. Why do they tell him, oh, it's a good thing you were hiding yesterday because we have somebody that was with us yesterday that's not here today. This works out better for you. Why do they tell Chuck, oh, you want us to give us a statement? And he tells them, oh, I gave you my statement already. Well, this is your chance to change it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. They love to get people to change their statements, don't they?
It's like, I believe when they initially took Stephen Avery into custody on the 9th, they didn't have the warrant for his arrest for the gun charge yet.
Yeah.
Because they're in there talking to him, not even talking about Teresa Halbach, just talking about just shooting the shit.
Mm.
And then he brings up the fact that Tammy Weaver told him that the cops did this.
Mm-hmm.
What do? They get out the room and leave. They come back in. What does Fassbender say? Well, we got this warrant here. Do you want to see it? And then they start to really grill him. The last 11 minutes of that interview, very telling. They mentioned bones one time, and then they continue saying body, a body, a body. They tell him the dogs took him to the body. The dogs took him to where the plates were. Obviously, they're lying to him, or are they? Because they start the interview out, he tell them that Wiegert says, well, I've never really been on the property. Can you tell me where things are? He's straight up lying to him. He's been on that property every single day.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And he's making sure that who is going to be on the property. He wants to know who's going to be there. Make sure that certain, like one of the officers was there for 36 hours straight. Why? And if Manitowoc's only there to supply security, why are they in there in the main searches? Just like on the 5th, Colborn gets called in to do security at the checkpoint. He gets to the checkpoint. What do they do? Oh, we need you to come to the command post. He gets to the command post. What do they do? Oh, we're going to assign you to a team going into searches. We're going to need cameras and stuff. Oh, I got all that in my car already. How convenient.
I'm just going to hold you 1 second there. I had a message come up to say from Jamie Hart. You have a troll. I've been watching all the chat, and if somebody wants to come on, okay. If they want to come on and make comments, fine. If you know, as I've often said to all the guilters out there, I am quite happy to have you as a guilter come on and argue the case with me any time or day. Yeah,
I've debated one guilter,
right,
and I haven't heard from him since.
No,
I pointed out all the discrepancies that I know.
Yeah,
they said you have a very, very large. And it's just I don't understand it. It seems like they all pretty much died off in the last year. They used to be all over the place. Now they're pretty much quiet.
Yeah, the thing is that you know, I have a certain sympathy with the people who were in, you know, Manitowoc at the time, and they were taken in by the sensationalism of the, you know, the Ken Kratz press conference. They're finding this stuff, they're finding it, they're finding this, they're finding that, they're finding the other. Yeah, I get the fact that, okay, you know, Emily Matasic, she's maybe not the sharpest tool in the shed. She maybe hasn't done the exact kind of, you know, background, you know, looking at you know, she's saying to Steve, you know, what about this? They found your DNA. How does your DNA get there? How does your blood get in the car? You know, and he's explaining to her, but she still doesn't get it. You know, are you still trying to say that, you know, that you're framed? So I do get the fact that there are certain people out there who were duped the first time. You know,
for sure.
And
well, look what the state decided after his 85 case was going on. They tried to put the blame on the victim. Yeah. Penny Bernstein. They said it was her fault because she identified the wrong person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Come on now.
She didn't. She was pointed.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was made absolutely clear to her. And you know, there's Penny Bernstein. She actually went to Kashurk and said, "Are you sure you got the right guy? Because I'm getting these phone calls. You know, I'm not sure about this." Bergman, Thomas Bergman from the police department.
Yep.
I don't think you've got the right person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I encourage people to listen to these jail calls.
Yeah.
Listen to the dispatch. Listen to the transmissions. Yeah. And actually listen to it. Take notes.
Yeah.
Because they say things, and it's not even what you hear from the direct, it's what you hear in the background, too.
Yeah.
When you hear Colborn saying Teresa Hallbach west of Avery's on the 7th, then you it sucks that these phone calls or these dispatch calls were converted to MP3s because trying to clean them up is impossible. Right. If they were in their original format, you'd be able to tweak it a little bit so you can get the background to come out for. The fact that the front recording is recorded in the background is hard to weed things out. But I've done the best I could.
Well,
I had.
look, Milbillie. I think I can speak on behalf of all of the truther community. We are absolutely gobsmacked and uh, really delighted at the work that you've done
Like for instance,
in trying to,
the picture of Teresa standing in front of that car.
yeah.
I asked Ali Apperson, a bunch of people, like, do you know where the location of this is? And everybody kept telling me, oh, it's outside the studio, outside the studio, outside the studio. I was like, no, it can't, because I've looked on Google Maps. It's not outside the studio. Me and this other researcher, Calf, we looked for about a month and a half, and I got to the point where I gave up. Every night we were going on Google Maps, looking at churches, schools, parks. I finally gave up, and I get a message from her a couple of days later, like, I found it. I'm like, huh? How you find it? She said, I dreamed it. Literally, she had a dream of the location of where the picture was taken. Come to find out, she's 100% right.
Mm-hmm.
She dreamed the name of the street, Cass Street. I plan on having her on my channel to talk about how that happened eventually. But yeah, it's crazy. And I believe that photo was taken on the 29th of October, and Tom Pierce is the one that took it. They asked him in trial, when was the last time you seen Teresa? He states, oh, I seen her on Sunday at the studio.
Mm.
They didn't ask her when you seen her prior to that. And then you hear the phone calls about people calling in, somebody that worked with Teresa and Tom Pierce, stating that he had a very bad temper, and that's why she quit the job.
Yeah.
It's obvious that the law enforcement didn't investigate what they should have. They had a blind eye to things and focused on one person and one person only, Stephen Avery.
Yeah, I mean, none of us. I'm sure that if it was Zurich or Vogel or somebody that actually did treason, I'm sure they weren't going to tell everybody else. By the way, we've done this. Well, we need you to shut up about it.
Why do you have? I have a queso call. Dennis Jacobs called in to County Dispatch asking to talk to Wiegert or Pagel, because he just talked to his neighbor. Well, guess who his neighbor is? Take a guess.
The neighbor of
Dennis Jacobs, Detective Dennis Jacobs from Manitowoc Sheriff's Department, lives right next door to Tom Kasher.
Yeah, I was going to say, because Dennis Jacobs, is he not one of the guys that in episode 1, he is the one that actually interviews Steve back in '85?
Yep.
Yeah. And I thought I recognized that name.
Yeah, Dennis Jacobs. He and why the night that Stephen Avery's arrested, are they trying to get Peg's number so Pegel can talk to her?
Yeah.
And then his deposition gets rescheduled, then canceled. They drop his lawsuits, takes the settlement for the $400,000. Very strategic what the state did.
Well, that brings us back to that
public pretenders didn't do nothing for him.
Yeah. But that brings us back to that Steve Glynn phone call that I listened to, and and Steve was like, well, why do we need to why do we need to settle?
Mm-hmm.
Why not keep it going?
You got me.
Not least because when he did have to settle on the basis that Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department did no wrongdoing.
And who's that? Not mine.
Yeah. One or two other things that would have happened differently, I believe, if Steve had done it. Would the RAV4 have taken hours to find rather than 40 minutes by Pam of God?
Yeah, and the fact that we hear Dolores saying that Earl witnessed Nicole and Pam sitting in the back of the police car,
Yeah.
laughing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why are you laughing if your cousin's missing?
Yeah.
And why did it go from a missing persons case to a homicide right away?
Yeah.
All they found was a car. Even my callback says, "Oh, they found a car, but there's no signs of foul play whatsoever. She's just a missing person." And him doing the interview when they come back with the bones and they ask him, "Well, what if the bones would have came back if not hers?" Well, that would have been one big mess. Well, guess what we're about to have? It's one big mess now. They gave the bones back.
Yeah, I mean,
The state's screwed. They can't get out of this. Zoner's got too many outs.
yeah. For me, the first big thing was the fact that Zona in her brief, as the dude pointed out just a wee while back, the first thing she points out is, look, we had this agreement with Fallon and the state, and I remember when it was. Somebody's just deleted. We had a certain Andrew saying that somebody talks shit. Well, Andrew, if you think we're talking shit, oh, there we go. You talk shit. Well, let's put you up, Andrew. You talk shit, Andrew. It's you that talk shit. I'm sorry, pal. But what are you trying to say? All we're doing is we're looking at this case rationally, and we're saying, could it be that Manitrock Sheriff's Department have framed this guy again? Don't forget, they didn't do it just once. This will be the second time that they've done it. Why did they do it the second time?
To get rid of their lawsuit.
Get rid of the first time. But anyway, let's get back to what we were talking about. The DNA would have been all over the engine compartment.
Oh yeah, it should have been.
Why only swab the hood latch?
If you look at where all the blood is in his Grand Am or his truck, that's where they should have found blood in that same places in the RAV, but they don't.
Mm-hmm.
They find it in 2 spots, or 6 droplets, then the blood flakes. And Sherry Cohane doesn't even test all the samples. Why didn't they test the prints that they found?
Mm-hmm.
Like my belief, they should have got everybody that had been on that property on the 31st, fingerprints, DNA. Yeah. Scott Tadich, Robert Fabian, Mike Osmondson.
I mean, as I say, sometimes I wonder what's worse: the investigation. I know it was slanted, and we know it's slanted, and also there's strong suspicion that the reason it was slanted is because they are responsible. But what beggars belief for me is some of the journalism in this case. What on earth are they thinking about? They as I was getting back to this interview with Emily Matasic, she is so focused on almost as if she's trying to get Steve to admit or to slip up in some way, and he never does. Yeah. And that's sorry, I'm going to let you go shortly. I would say it's my final point that he would have, if Steve had done it. Is it not typical for the perpetrator, if they're guilty, to have blamed other people? I can't find anywhere where Steve has ever blamed anybody else for this and said, you should be looking at this guy. No, you shouldn't be looking at me. Why are you looking at me? You should be looking at him.
Well, they even asked him when Wiegert and them interview him, like, do you have any idea who might have done this? And he's like, no, I can't think. No. I have no problems with anybody. I keep it myself.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't even like leaving the property. He had his mom go to the store to get him soda so he wouldn't have to.
Yeah.
He pretty much stuck to home.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing that I find quite fascinating is the fact that, we've got him on the Thursday. Coleman comes to the yard, says, look, we've got this missing person. Can we have a look inside your trailer? If he'd have done it, Stephen would have been, you're not getting here without a search
warrant. On the third, Colborne actually talks to him at his mother's house.
All right.
The next day, Link and Remaker come back, and that's when they are allowed in to search the property.
Yeah. But if you've just murdered somebody, you're Stephen Avery, you're Brendan Dassey, are you going to be able to sanitize and clean up that kind of blood mess?
No way in hell.
Because for one thing, when you do clean up, the act of cleaning up itself gives away the fact that there was some blood there. So you wipe that away.
Well, look at what they spend all this time on Cuss Road. They obviously did a thorough investigation. They cordoned off the crime scene and everything. But why didn't they do the same thing for his burn pit?
Yeah.
What's underneath the tarp?
Yeah.
In them pictures.
Yeah.
It's obvious they're hiding the truth. I mean, we have photos from the evidence of Cuss Road in Manitowoc's evidence, but there's photos of photos.
Mm-hmm.
And for the fact that they're in the air for almost 4 hours on the 4th, but we only got, 3 minutes at most of the flyover over to Avery's property, and they spent at least 25 minutes over that property?
Yeah.
Did they find the car and then turn around over the flyover? I mean, Why do they have her car as dark green listed in their property in Manitowoc and her listed as kidnapped?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you read all the reports from Calumet to Manitowoc, and nothing makes sense. Nothing is the same.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you look at who was brought back in March and match them names up who was there in November, those are the people that are involved.
Yeah, as I say, for me, could Bobby have been involved in it? Possibly. Certainly the stuff on the computer is damning. But at the very least, for me, Bobby is one of these fellas who has clearly changed sides. He's gone along with the fact that he's getting pressure put on him. I don't know about Scott Taddick. He seems a very volatile person. For me, for me, it's too much of a coincidence, and it's too convenient for Manitowoc Sheriff's Department that Teresa disappeared when she did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whether or not they actually pulled the trigger or not, I don't know.
Well, you look at what happened in his 85 case.
Yeah,
they had idea of somebody else that could have done this, but they chose to take the blind eye and focus on one person.
Yeah,
because they wanted to get him for what he did to Senator Morris.
Yeah, yeah. Which, unfortunately, it seems as though if somebody within Manitowoc Sheriff's Department is responsible for the disappearance of Teresa Holbach, it seems terribly inhumane to actually sacrifice, because that's one of the things that Emily Matasic points out to Steve. The fact that she had the rest of her life in front of her, and I can't remember exact wording of what she says, but she tries to lay some emotional guilt on Stephen, clearly misplaced.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't help thinking, what kind of mess is it that a sheriff's department or people within a sheriff's department think what I'm saying is we kind of understand that they think of the Averys as being a lower class to them. Mm-hmm. But Teresa is not of this lower class.
No.
And yet
And,
they're prepared to sacrifice her.
yeah. And another thing on the Cashville Dispatch, why is there an insurance company calling to talk to the lead investigators?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And the coroners, there's phone calls about the coroners, the medical examiner. Like, the coroner actually isn't called to the Avery property until the 9th. And it's paged by, I believe, Greg Shetter.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Calumet County coroner, not Manitowoc.
Mm-hmm.
And it's allegedly 2 days after they find bones on his property. So who knows?
Listen, Milbillie, I would really like to thank you for coming on and having a chat with me. You do realise that you are actually in quite some demand.
Oh, really?
One or two other people would like to get you to come on and have a chat with them.
Well, when I first started doing these videos, it was never about me, never will be. Never will.
No.
It's about the truth. That's all I care about.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I'm going to be selfish and ask you if I could invite you on again in the not too distant future, and maybe we can go through some other stuff. And I must admit I was quite flabbergasted when we spoke earlier, and you said, "Well, yeah, we could do it in 3 hours," and I'm like, "Wow!"
Well,
but
your schedule is crazy.
Yeah.
I barely sleep as much anyway with all this case, especially with all these calls.
Yeah.
It's just I've been trying to put together a timeline for the 3rd using the Calumet Dispatch with the Manitowoc Dispatch, and I found some strange things, and I plan on posting that soon.
Well, listen, I am absolutely sure that all 58 of the people who are watching this are well aware of your channel and your sterling work, because it has been absolutely phenomenal. I think you've been going for just over a year now.
Yeah, just over.
Yeah. So if anybody out there hasn't yet subscribed, well worth subscribing. Well worth checking out some of the videos. It will take you forever and a day to check them all out. I think you've up to, is it a couple of hundred videos already?
I think it's 200 and something. I really don't pay attention. I know there's.
I know what you mean. It's just a number, isn't it?
A lot.
Yeah. And I'd like to thank everybody for joining in. But as I say, particularly big thanks to you for agreeing to come and have a chat with me. Enjoy your evening, whatever's left of it.
About to go to work.
Oh well. And if you could just say cheerio to the guests, that would be great.
Cheerio.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I look forward to chatting again. Bye for now, everybody.
Have a good day.
Thank you.